With the conclusion of the British Grand Prix, the 2025 Formula One season is now halfway over, and it's time to see who's performed well, who's done as expected, and who's fallen short of expectations. In no way is this a completely comprehensive list accounting for every possible factor, but it takes into consideration each driver's results, the strength of the car they drive, and where each driver consistently finishes. So with that out of the way, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss an upload here from TWIR, and follow our Twitter and the Cars and Coffee Instagram so you never miss any updates from the channel. Now, let's take a look at the 2025 TWIR Formula One Mid-Season Power Rankings. Number 21, Jack Doohan. Jack Doohan barely got to prove himself at Alpine, but the results he posted in the French cars were less than stellar. With a best finish of 13th in China and never making it out of Q2 on Saturday, other results ranged from meh to awful. In Australia, he crashed in the rain, and in Japan, he lost valuable track time when the team decided to put Ryo Hirakawa in the car for Free Practice 1, and in Free Practice 2, Doohan went out and almost immediately crashed the car, losing even more track time. He finished the race in 17th. After a string of finishes that even Alpine considered subpar and another retirement in Miami, Alpine officially benched the Australian. While I believe the only way for a rookie to get better is for them to get used to the car and have more time on track, when you factor in Doohan's many hours of testing time in previous Alpine cars, his performances for the team on Sundays this year were quite disappointing. Whether that's down to the car or driver is up to you. Let me know in the comments. Number 20, Franco Colapinto. Colapinto was signed by Alpine as a reserve driver at the beginning of 2025 following his up-and-down third of the season with Williams after Logan Sargent was fired. This move was in case Alpine team boss Flavio Briatore wanted to replace Doohan mid-season. The call-up came after Miami, and Colapinto made his first start for the team at Imola, where he finished 16th behind teammate Pierre Gasly in 13th. Over his original 5-race deal, the Argentine equaled Doohan's best finish of 13th twice and will remain with the team from the British Grand Prix onward on a race-by-race basis, as he brings significant funding from his home country. But the team is keeping the pressure on him. The second Alpine, no matter who is driving, has not scored a point this year, and Alpine is last in the Constructors' Championship by an increasingly wide margin. Drivers like Valtteri Bottas and Paul Aron are waiting in line to hopefully change Team Enstone's fortunes if Colapinto's performance turns further south. Number 19, Lance Stroll. Stroll had a promising start to the season with a strong 6th place in Australia, a 9th in China, and a 5th place in the Miami sprint race, but his season had quickly turned downhill. In the span between Miami and Austria, Stroll never scored a point and only managed a best finish of 14th. That 14th place being at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And that's without bringing up the fact that Stroll had missed a race in that time span. On the Saturday afternoon of the Spanish Grand Prix weekend, Stroll aggravated an old wrist injury from 2023, allegedly in a meltdown in the Aston Martin garage. Stroll's team did take advantage of a great strategy call at Silverstone to finish 6th place, but it could have been an easy podium for Aston Martin. Stroll was upset with the car's handling almost the entire race, an issue which caused him to lose that podium and finish behind Hamilton, Verstappen, and Hülkenberg to come home in a still strong 7th place. Over his career, Stroll has proven that he's capable of good results. He is, however, horrendously inconsistent, something that Stroll will need to work on if Aston Martin wants to be competitive in the Constructors' Championship from 2026 onwards. Number 18, Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson's dream drive with Red Bull Racing lasted only 2 races. Both times he failed to get the car out of Q1. In Melbourne, he qualified 18th and took a tire gamble early that failed, and a crash prevented him from making the finish. In China, he qualified last for both the sprint race and the main event, and finished 15th in the main race, but it became 12th after the 2 Ferraris and Pierre Gasly's Alpine were disqualified. After being sent back to the Racing Bulls B team, his fortunes have slightly improved. He would remain pointless until an 8th place finish in Monaco. Lawson's issues with the RB21 most likely stemmed from the Red Bull cars always being built towards Max Verstappen's liking. Those issues seemed to disappear once he was back at the junior team alongside Isaac Hadjar, but with Tsunoda struggling in the second Red Bull now, another swap is not off the table for 2026, or possibly earlier. Number 17, Oliver Bearman. Ollie Bearman shocked the F1 world in Jeddah last year when he finished 7th in the place of a hospitalized Carlos Sainz at Ferrari. Bearman would make 2 more race starts in 2024, scoring another point in Azerbaijan when replacing Kevin Magnussen, who was serving a 1-race ban, and finishing 12th in Brazil when he could have easily scored points, but the strategy didn't play out, which Bearman took the blame for, saying he went for the intermediate tires too early. These performances led to a full-time drive with Haas in 2025, where he's had quite the up-and-down season. After a 14th in Australia, the Brit went on a run of 3 straight points finishes, with 8th in Shanghai and 10th at Suzuka. In Bahrain, he charged from last on the grid to score a point in 10th, but since then, Behrman has scored 0 points and has bounced back and forth from the edge of the points at some races to the far end of the grid at others. Number 16, Pierre Gasly. Throughout the season, Gasly has had flashes of speed in an Alpine that many have described as a tractor, finishing just outside of the points in Australia and scoring points in Bahrain, the Miami Sprint, Spain, and Silverstone. The best race of the year so far for Gasly has to be the British Grand Prix. After some drivers pitted for slicks at the start, he was one of only 4 cars on the inside line at the race start, allowing him to jump from 10th to 6th. From then on, he battled through the pouring rain, taking 6th place from Stroll on the last lap and bringing home more valuable points. In fact, the only 19 points Alpine has scored in 2025 were to Gasly's name, and neither of his teammates have been able to get close to him. With Renault's cancellation of its 2026 engine project and Alpine's switch to being a Mercedes customer team for next year, a more powerful engine could be what turns Team Enstone's fortunes around for the next regulation cycle. Number 15, Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda finally got the Red Bull call-up he'd been waiting for years, right before his home race at Suzuka. He struggled in very much the same way Lawson did, driving a car that was built for Max Verstappen, who has such a unique driving style that it's hard for any other driver to adapt to a car built for him. Tsunoda only has 3 point scoring weekends to his name, 9th in Bahrain, 10th in Miami while scoring an extra few in the sprint race, and he did manage a solid 10th place finish in Imola. Solid considering that he flipped his car at the Villeneuve chicane in Q1. The worst show of form so far this season came in Austria, where he damaged his car early in a collision with Colapinto's Alpine, leaving the Red Bull 16th and last of the finishing cars 1 lap down. While Tsunoda's attitude has gotten in the way of his driving less than what Red Bull may have expected, Tsunoda has genuinely struggled at many points throughout the year. Whether that's the car or the driver, that's up for debate. Number 14, Fernando Alonso. The 2-time world champion has had a very difficult 2025 season thus far, starting the season with 2 straight retirements in Melbourne and Shanghai, and not getting on the scoreboard until his home event in Spain. Alonso has since scored points in the last 4 races, leaving him only 4 points behind teammate Lance Stroll. Where their paths diverge, however, is their current run of form. Alonso has found his footing over the last month or so, and is now capable of coming in as best of the rest at the end of a weekend, while Stroll is languishing in the mid-teens on a good day. Alonso's F1 career isn't quite on the final decline. With Adrian Newey arriving at the team before the 2026 rule changes, there is some hope within the team that they can recapture some of the competitiveness that they had in early 2023. But for now, Alonso is a midfield driver even with a car that is down on pace from his predecessors, which is still quite impressive. Number 13, Isack Hadjar. Hadjar's maiden F1 race in Melbourne began without him. The French Algerian crashed his Racing Bull on the formation lap, leaving him in tears on the side of the track. Since then, he has scored an impressive 21 points, sitting a very respectable 11th in the driver's standings, outscoring both Tsunoda and Lawson by comfortable margins. If Tsunoda underperforms in the second Red Bull, Hadjar looks to be the top contender to replace him, even though the best career choice for him might be to stay at Racing Bulls, where at least he knows how to drive the car. Number 12, Carlos Sainz. Sainz is the consistent point scorer that Williams has needed to partner Alex Albon after Logan Sargent's short, crash-filled stint with the team. Sainz is currently 15th in the driver's standings, with 13 points and only has 6 non-scoring races through this season. Those include retirements at Melbourne and Monaco, a 14th at his home race in Spain, and a failure to start in Austria after his car failed to leave the grid and then burst into flames in the pit lane. Aside from that, Sainz has turned Williams back into a 2-car team for the Constructors' Championship, where they are currently top of the midfield in 5th, but a long way behind Red Bull in 4th. Number 11, Esteban Ocon. Ocon's switch to Haas for 2025 has produced up and down results so far. A 5th place in China was followed by an 8th in Bahrain, 7th in Monaco, 9th in Canada, and 10th in Austria. But between those high highs are some pretty low lows for the Frenchman. 18th in Japan, a 14th in Jeddah, and a retirement at Imola due to engine issues. Ocon is currently 10th in the standings on 23 points, far adrift from Alex Albon at the top of the midfield, but if there is anything that Haas needs to improve on with both Ocon and teammate Oliver Behrman, it's consistency from race to race and continuing to pull in points. Number 10, Alex Albon. Albon has remained a stable constant at Williams since his arrival in 2022. Until the Spanish Grand Prix, his only finish outside the points was a 12th place in Bahrain, but from Spain onwards, results have been almost non-existent. He was taken out of the Spanish Grand Prix in a collision with Liam Lawson that damaged his spare front wing. Without an intact replacement on site, Albon served a penalty for a track limits violation and then retired from the race. In Canada, he was forced out of the top 10 early before the car's engine went, forcing him to retire. In Austria, he was the sole Williams to take the start after Sainz's car exploded, and after running as high as 6th in the early stages, he was instructed to retire due to engine cooling issues. Albon is 8th in the Drivers' Championship, 17 points adrift from Kimi Antonelli, but he's still costing Williams valuable constructors' points in its fight to stay near the front. Number 9, Gabriel Bortoleto. You may be surprised to see a driver with only 4 points this high on this list, but Bortoleto's performances for Sauber in what is essentially a throwaway year have been quite impressive. While the F2 champion has had a very slow start to the season with a retirement in Melbourne and no finish better than 14th until Spain, after Barcelona an upward trend started to show as Sauber's performance at certain tracks began to pay dividends. Austria was by far Bortoleto's best weekend, making it to Q3 for the first time, qualifying 8th and staying competitive throughout the race and coming home in 7th, scoring a valuable 4 points for a Sauber team that is coming off a disastrous 2024. Between him and Nico Hülkenberg, this team has a great driver combination to potentially be best of the midfield this year, and a great combo to build on once they become Audi next season. Number 8, Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli came into his rookie season with massive shoes to fill, taking the Mercedes seat vacated by a Ferrari-bound 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. The 18-year-old previously had a brief FP1 outing for the team at the 2024 Italian Grand Prix, finding the barrier only 10 minutes into the session. Through his rookie year, he has been comprehensively beaten by teammate George Russell, but that's not unexpected. What really has held the Italian back this year is Mercedes' reliability. In the 6 races since Miami, Antonelli has failed to finish 4 of them. His throttle quit at Imola, he had a terrible race in Monaco where he started 15th and finished 18th in the last of the running cars. He had a great qualifying in Spain, taking 6th on the grid, but unfortunately his oil pressure gave up and he was forced to retire. He had an incredible 3rd place in Canada while Russell won, but in Austria he had a rookie mistake, missing his braking point in turn 3 on the opening lap and slamming into Max Verstappen. And finally, at Silverstone, he suffered floor damage when Isaac Hadjar wiped out in the rain behind him. Out of those retirements since Miami, 3 have been mechanical, 1 was driver error, and 1 that was completely out of his control, that being Hadjar wiping out in the rain behind him. None of this is the end of the world, as the one retirement that was his fault was a rookie mistake that he has plenty of time to fix. This is a learning season, and I believe he has a great foundation to build on. Number 7, Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's shock move to Ferrari for 2025 was thought by many to be a career revival and thought by others to be a career suicide. But his first half of 2025 has been mediocre at best. Excluding the double disqualification in Shanghai for Ferrari, Hamilton hasn't finished a race outside the points all year, including sprint races. But Hamilton hasn't scored a podium so far this season compared to teammate Charles Leclerc's 4. But this is an adjustment season for Hamilton as he gets used to driving a Ferrari after 12 years at Mercedes. Ferrari has consistently been the second best car behind McLaren, so if anyone is outperforming at the team, it's Leclerc, who's 5th in the drivers' points and 16 points ahead of Hamilton in 6th. Again, with the 2026 reset, it's totally unknown what Ferrari's fortunes will be in the coming years, or if Hamilton had even made the right decision to leave Mercedes. Number 6, Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg's heroics in a season for Sauber that many considered a write-off have been incredible to watch. Many had wrote off his departure from Haas as the end of his F1 career, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In all of the German's 5 points finishes so far this season, he started from outside the top 10. He came home 7th for his first race with the team in Melbourne after starting a horrible 17th. In Spain, he once again made up 10 positions in the race, going from 15th to an incredible 5th place. He went from 11th to 8th in Canada and turned a miserable 20th place starting position into a 9th place finish at Sauber's first double point since 2020 in Austria. But the biggest result came at Silverstone. Hülkenberg started 19th and last of the cars that took the start, but through brilliant strategy and holding off Lewis Hamilton on pace, he crossed the line in 3rd to end one of the greatest injustices in modern Formula 1. Hulkenberg had finally scored his first podium in his 239 race career and brought home Sauber's first podium since 2012. With that podium, it means that Sauber as a whole has outscored Red Bull in the last 4 races, 35 points to 29. It may very well be Sauber's final podium as the team becomes Audi next year, but no matter who is in charge, the team has an incredibly solid driver lineup for the future. Number 5. Charles Leclerc. Leclerc has had a relatively mediocre 2025 season along with teammate Hamilton. He currently sits 5th in the driver's standings, 28 points adrift of George Russell. But the problem has been that there haven't been many chances for Ferrari to score podiums. The team has only 4 podiums all season, all scored by Leclerc. He finished 3rd in Jeddah, Spain, and Austria, and 2nd at his home race in Monaco. Excluding the double disqualification in China, Leclerc has scored points in every race except for Silverstone, where he collided with Carlos Sainz. Overall, Leclerc is still a championship-capable driver, but Ferrari is so far adrift of McLaren in the Constructors' Championship at this point in the season that it would take a miracle to get the prancing horses back into contention. Number 4. Max Verstappen. Similar to Leclerc, reigning world champion Verstappen is struggling more with the car than with his driving ability, but as his teammates faltered, Max has still maintained very good results, and most believe that this is down to the car being designed for him only. Verstappen likes a pointy car, one that can turn in and exit the corner faster, a characteristic not shared with most of the other drivers on the grid. But over the last year and a bit since the Imola 2024 car update, the Red Bull has consistently been losing ground to McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari. While the car has been frankly terrible at some tracks, Verstappen can still pull out good results where his teammates can't. With instability at Red Bull Racing following Christian Horner's apparent firing from the team after the British Grand Prix and Toto Wolff's constant wishes to sign the Dutchman up for Mercedes, the 4-time world champion's future is now truly up in the air. Number 3. George Russell. Russell has stepped up this season as Mercedes' new number 1 driver. He currently sits 4th in the standings behind Verstappen, but overall, Russell has scored more often. The only race he hasn't scored points in so far was Monaco, where he finished just outside the points in 11th. He had an incredible drive in Canada to take a victory and has scored 4 other podiums. The biggest thing hanging over his head at the moment is his future at Mercedes. Toto Wolff's desire to sign Max Verstappen has been no secret, and Mercedes has continued to emphasize that Kimi Antonelli is their young future star, making it clear that if they do sign Verstappen, Russell would be the one to move aside. If the Verstappen talks go no further, he will most likely stay with the team, but if Russell is forced out, the only possible places to land would be the new Cadillac team, or possibly a direct driver swap with Red Bull. But if he can continue to prove how reliable of a point scorer and podium finisher he is, Mercedes will be more and more inclined to keep him. Number 2. Lando Norris. Norris's 2025 season has been slightly less fruitful than his teammate. Despite a home win at Silverstone, he has generally underperformed compared to his teammate Oscar Piastri. Norris is only 8 points behind Piastri for the lead of the World Championship, but his good performances are often at the misfortune of his teammate. A 10-second penalty for Piastri while he was dominating the race basically gifted the win to Lando Norris at Silverstone. But Piastri still finished second, which limited the points damage from Lando's win. Overall, Norris has been less consistent than his teammate. Norris has 4 wins while Piastri has 5, and Norris has finished outside the points once when the teammates collided in Canada compared to Piastri, who has never finished outside the points this season. But despite the collision between the teammates in Montreal, McLaren remains well ahead of its rivals in the Constructors' Championship because Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull keep taking points out of each other, leaving the boys in orange 238 points in the lead of the championship. Number 1. Oscar Piastri. For a driver that was widely considered to be the number 2 at McLaren due to his lesser experience, Piastri has really settled into his role as a star of the future. With 5 wins at the halfway point of the season, it could have been 6 if he didn't brake so hard under the safety car in Great Britain. He hasn't finished outside the points all year, his worst finish being 9th in Melbourne, where he started second but got beached in the rain, and somehow still finished in the points. Piastri also has only finished off the podium one other time, that being 4th in Canada, where he and teammate Lando Norris collided. Piastri is absolutely a world champion material driver, something he can focus on now that McLaren has a massive lead in the Constructors' Championship. His consistency and his skill could very well make him a champion at year's end, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, that's our mid-season list. Agree, disagree, share in the comments below, and remember to subscribe so you never miss an upload from TWYR. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.